I went on the hunt for anywhere I could find it, and I found myself in Akron and Canton and Cleveland and Pittsburgh, and they had small forms of these cultural experiences I was getting in all these other areas like Miami and DC. And I would engage them and say, hey, you want to bring this to like Youngstown? You know, there's no market there. And I'm like, no, you got to build a market though. You know what I mean? I understood when you see Apple come out with the iPhone, there was no market for a phone that didn't have buttons.
It's the all-new Valley Gold with Debórah. This is the show that brings you the stars, the stories, and the performances. You'll see familiar faces, and you'll get to learn more about how they do what they do. Today, Debórah chops it up with entrepreneur and community advocate Derrick McDowell. So stay tuned. Debórah has great features for you on the all-new Valley Gold with Debórah. Stay tuned for our Legends Music Moment. Special delivery. That's what each newborn baby is in the hands of your team in the village. Dr. Rodney Hill and his professional staff of nurse practitioners, conveniently located on 5th Avenue in Youngstown, open weekdays and Saturdays. Call today. Whether it's Motown, Philly Soul, Stax, Solar, Savoy, you name it, people from every nation love old school rhythm and blues music. Now, I hope you enjoy.
This is insane. All you did was say hello, speak my name, being in your life like a love like these to know long ago. How can this be? You're a different space and time. Come to me. Feel I'm home in a place I used to know long ago. Deja vu. Could you be the dream that I want to? Is it you? Deja vu. Could you be the dream that might come true? Shining through. I keep remembering you. I keep remembering you. Deja vu.
Up next, it's all about the love on Valley Gold with Debórah. Trust, dignity, and peace of mind. These are the qualities you look for when planning the memorial service of a loved one. L.E. Black Phillips and Holden Funeral Home is the name families have come to rely on for pre-need planning, grief support, financial guidance, and compassion during life's most difficult time. Located at 1951 McGuffey Road in Youngstown, in the time of need, it's L.E. Black Phillips and Holden Funeral Home, still caring for the memories most cherished by you. Welcome back to the show. We live in a day and time where many people just can't seem to figure out how to build the kind of relationship that will last a lifetime. Well, my next guest is all about the love. His name is Jason Harriston. Welcome to the show, Jason.
And it's a pleasure to be in your space again, Debórah. Thanks for having me. Yes, so in this segment, we're going to talk about how important it is to have space within your relationship. I know when you first get together, you want to smother each other and be all over each other, but guess what? At some point, you need to create space, because if you're around each other too much, you're going to get tired of each other, you're going to be irritable. But when you leave a little bit of space, that leaves space for that spark to be re-sparked every now and then, right? It's like, ooh, I miss her, or ooh, I miss him. And you want to have a little bit of that in the mix, right? And that's part of the spice that keeps it interesting when you give a little space. And besides, We need a little bit of space to do our own thing every now and then, right? So give your partner some space. Trust me, it will help in the relationship. It is important to maintain your individuality. So giving each other space gives you a little bit of time to miss each other. And guess what? When you come together, fireworks and sparks.
Y'all need to help her. Somebody help Debórah. Help Debórah. Somebody help her.
Every engine lover knows that sweet sound of an engine that is ready to race. This car was made ready at the Predator Zone. The Predator Zone is Northeast Ohio's only test and tune track. 330 feet of track with reaction time. Our track will pull your teeth out. Located on Youngstown's east side, grand opening in April. Before you put that car in the race, make an appointment at the Predator Zone.
Some call it manipulation, others call it a con job. I'm just trying to get my lemon rolled. Check it out.
Oh my.
What are you laughing about?
What are you trying to do?
I'm softening this lemon to make some lemon water.
Oh my goodness, this looks like another Lucille Ball moment.
It's quite all right.
This is not the way it's done.
Well, you know so much, why don't you do it?
All right. You're supposed to rub it or roll it on the counter or whatever surface it is, a cutting board, with the palm of your hand and apply pressure.
Is that doing it?
Yes, it is.
Is it getting soft?
Yes, it is.
So when I go to squeeze my lemons?
When you cut it and squeeze it, the juice will release from the lemon quite easily.
Well, you want to try this one too? See, girls? Look what you got to do sometime to get them to do what you need.
Up next, it's Keeping It Fresh on Valley Gold with Debórah. Special delivery. That's what each newborn baby is in the hands of your team in the village. Dr. Rodney Hill and his professional staff of nurse practitioners, conveniently located on 5th Avenue in Youngstown, open weekdays and Saturdays. Excellent prenatal care is what helps ensure a healthy baby. So for the best women's health, reproductive and prenatal care, you'll want to be in the hands of Dr. Rodney Hill, Mama Carol, and Nurse Sin. They're your team in the village where every delivery is special. Keeping it fresh for us today is a gorgeous, melanin-rich beauty named Ashley Allsmiles. Ashley is the quintessential beauty stylist, so from head to shoulders, she's gonna show us how to keep it fresh.
Hello. Hi, Debórah. Thank you so much, and thank you for sharing me with your viewers today. I am Ashley Allsmiles, and today I want to talk about the basic beat. Okay, I'm talking neutral eyeshadow, neutral lip, a little bit of highlight. I'm gonna show you how I keep it fresh with the basic beat.
Stay tuned as Debórah chops it up with entrepreneur Derrick McDowell. Today's guest grew up in some of the roughest areas in Youngstown, Ohio. He lost his best friend and brother to gun violence in Youngstown, Ohio. He saw his mother struggle and fight against the ills of racism, poverty, and violence of Youngstown, Ohio. And yet today, whenever he is asked what does he do, his response is, "What I do is love Youngstown, Ohio." Unique, complex, and true. Let's welcome my very special guest, Derrick McDowell.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for being my guest.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So we, as I mentioned in the introduction, you came up, I don't want to say on the mean streets of Youngstown, because actually the streets are the streets, and one street is really no different than another, except for the fact that what people do who live there.
Yeah, I think we in our communities share a lot of similar experiences. I can talk to people and find out that I wasn't alone in what I went through along with my other brothers. And so, yeah, like you said, I mean, at the time we didn't think they were mean streets because sometimes you don't know what's happening to you as a child. But as you look back, you realize a lot of the things that were going on, they just weren't normal for a child to be experiencing in a community like Youngstown.
So you want to share a little bit of your story? How you grew up, what were some of your influences, what was your driving force as a teenager, what kinds of things were you interested in, what things attracted you, and how did you manage to stay on a better path?
So my mom was born here in Youngstown, so was my dad, both graduates of South. They were married late in my mom's 20s, and that's when she began having children. But my dad was sort of that star football player, ladies' man, really caused some turmoil in their marriage, and my dad became abusive to my mom, and so my mom relocated actually to Birmingham, Alabama for some time. So I grew up, I was the baby of 4 boys. 14 years of my life actually were spent in Birmingham, Alabama. And that was a very challenging time because my mom had little family structure in that area or support. And so she was trying to get her footing in a career in the medical field, but really wound up working, fast food restaurants. We were on government assistance, living in, huge housing projects where people were just crammed on top of one another. And so, unfortunately, at the murder of my oldest brother, who remained here in Youngstown with my grandmother, in 1995, he was murdered. And that brought us actually back with my mom and 2 other brothers. That was because we had struggled so bad in Birmingham, and my grandmother, who raised my brother on Laclede on the south side, couldn't bear the thought of living in that home any longer, but the home was already paid for. So that actually brought stability back to my mom raising 3 other boys. The idea was to move back here. And so for me, I was 14 years old coming back for my brother's funeral and moving back to a city that just claimed his life. Wow. And so as a teenager entering high school, and I'd already gone to 3 or 4 different high schools my 9th grade year, I come back to a Youngstown in 1995 that had already experienced 68 murders. And when that happened, my brother's murder just stripped all the innocence away. And then I didn't fully understand why we were coming back to a Youngstown that just claimed the life of your son. This is me in my mind, because I wouldn't dare say this to my mom, because these were decisions that were already made.
Right, and you were just a kid. You had no control.
I was just a kid. I had no control. But it was hugely baffling to me, and it caused me to, quite honestly, shut down. Again, entering, Woodrow Wilson High School at a chaotic time where some of the other city schools were closing. So you're joining folks from other neighborhoods who had animosity towards one another. And I thought to myself, I'm going to wind up like my oldest brother, murdered in the streets of Youngstown. And so I thought the best survival mechanism I have is to literally go invisible, is to literally shut down so much that folks wouldn't even remember me. But you would never catch me taking notes, carrying books, any homework. I would pass state tests, but I would still enroll in the remedial classes as if I hadn't passed them. So if they had makeup classes for those who needed extra attention to pass this portion of the state test, I would still go. And I would say, yeah, I'm struggling just like you, but, and so wow. I knew enough because I saw in my upbringing so many people who, if you were intelligent, you got picked on, you got bullied for the answers. Right? There were people who'd wait on you after class to say, you're going to help me. And so I wanted to blend in so aggressively that I allowed my grades to look like their grades. Wow. I did enough to get by, but I was intelligent enough to know not to be overly intelligent in school.
What a burden to carry.
Yeah.
We're going to
Yeah.
take a commercial break, and when we come back, more into the mind of Derrick McDowell. Right back after this. Trust, dignity, and peace of mind. These are the qualities you look for when planning the memorial service of a loved one. L.E. Black Phillips and Holden Funeral Home is the name families have come to rely on for pre-need planning, grief support, financial guidance, and compassion during life's most difficult time. Located at 1951 McGuffey Road in Youngstown, in the time of need, it's L.E. Black Phillips and Holden Funeral Home, still caring for the memories most cherished by you. And we're back on Valley Gold with Debórah and my phenomenal, amazing, and really very brilliant guest, Derrick McDowell.
Thank you.
So one of the things that I think is so important right now is, and we discussed some of this on the break, is the fact that so many people, as you said, can identify with the struggle that you had from the poverty, the utilities shut off, just not having not only the material resources, but also the academic support, the social support, all those things that you needed. So many young people, particularly African American men or boys, can identify with that. And so now today we have an opportunity to kind of bridge the gap between what you've gone through and the struggle that they can identify with to the man that you have become on the other side, a successful man, and for them to be able to see, yes, we have so many similar struggles, but you don't have to go, it doesn't have to end up badly. Now we've got somebody we can talk to who came through it, how you came through it, and the things that you'll be able to share as a result of it.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's get into some of your entrepreneurial exploits, because even though you worked in corporate America, you seem to have always had an entrepreneurial spirit about you.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some of the things that you did. Now, you taught yourself to code.
Yeah. I didn't get to complete college, but I saw enough that it still piqued my interest. And so in between, working, I would still try and go to places like Kinko's back in the day where they had computers and sort of play around. And there were some things in the community that folks would do where they'd need a flyer. And so I would make a flyer for them. And then I got this bright idea that I wanted to express myself through a clothing line. And so I needed a website. And, I just started diving into how do you build a website? And again, you're not talking about these eras we're in now where most websites are templates and laid out for you. This is the X's and O's and the ones and zeros that you got to really dive into to understand how that works. And I was a novice for sure. I learned Photoshop. There was no YouTube. There was trial and error. There was hours and hours of just figuring out how to remove a background from an image to overlay it into. And so I've seen teenagers these days who know more in a day than I still probably know. But it was a deep interest and desire of mine, because at the back of my mind, I said, I'm going to go on one day and, create billboards for companies, and you're going to see all this work of mine over, freeways and highways and in neighborhoods. And so I had a desire to still want to learn that.
So, okay, so you've got this entrepreneurial heart. You're teaching yourself to code. My first introduction to you, I'd seen you about town, and I knew you were doing things, but my first real introduction and connection with you was through the flea. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about that. A market of makers.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
So explain to us the difference between the flea and the flea market.
Sure. So I would always tell folks, a flea market, wonderful, right? You can find a ton of things in a different form, right? If you've gone to some flea markets, you've got folks who are selling out of the back of their truck with their mangy dog hanging out the window. You've got a tarp on the ground with a bunch of things they found at some garage sale or some estate sale. And that to me was an event. And I would, I had because of my extensive vocabulary from telemarketing, I would always like to get the language around things so that I could articulate it. And so I said, that's an event. What I'm building is an experience. You know, what Michael Jackson did was an experience.
Okay.
What Prince did was an experience.
Yeah,
right?
it was something
you
you
didn't
go to an event.
Yeah.
Now that you put it that way,
experience.
that's really honing in
Yeah.
on the difference between the two.
Yeah, and so I went on the hunt for anywhere I could find it, and I found myself in Akron and Canton and Cleveland and Pittsburgh, and they had small forms of these cultural experiences I was getting in all these other areas like Miami and DC. And I would engage them and say, hey, you want to bring this to like Youngstown? You know, there's no market there. And I'm like, no, you got to build a market. Those who didn't get it, I didn't try and, overly convince. You're not it, And when I found a home with a German architectural firm, they were quick to say yes. You can use our space. It made sense. And I'll tell you an interesting story. The first flea we did was April of 2016. And I remember all the load-in logistics. I mean, you've got to hang the banner that I had made. I mean, it's a banner of all banners that's going to show you the logo I designed myself. Tables, chairs, porta-johns. I mean, I'm all that. Mm-hmm. I'm not too good for any of the work. I'm here to serve. And so I'm up at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, still putting all this stuff together, the sound system. And so finally hits, I load in all my vendors. And I remember we had 38 vendors. That's where we started. And I said, whatever we got, that's what we got. And it hit, we were 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. that day. And it was like 9:50 a.m. My wife gets down there with our kids and I say, hey, I stink. I'm going to try and run home and take the quickest shower I can take and change and get back down here. And she says, go, I got it. You got all the vendors set up in place. They're just doing their final little, the curtain's about to go up. Mm-hmm. So I run home and I'm getting on 680. I shower as quick as I can. I get changed. I get back on 680. I get off on the South Avenue exit. And my wife's repeatedly calling me. And I'm like, what the heck? I'm like this close. Because I'm thinking, I'll see her in a few minutes. Like, I want to start this whole long conversation. But I say, honey, what's up? The second time you called me, what's going on? And she goes, you got to hurry up and get back here. I'm like, yeah. And again, this is like oblivious Derrick. I said, honey, I'm trying. I'm stuck in traffic. I'm like, I've never seen it.
Wait. You don't realize it's your traffic.
Not at all. And she goes, yeah, because that's all the people trying to get in the parking lot.
We're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, more from Derrick McDowell after this.
Every engine lover knows that sweet sound of an engine that is ready to race. This car was made ready at the Predator Zone. The Predator Zone is Northeast Ohio's only test and tune track. 330 feet of track with reaction time. Our track will pull your teeth out. Located on Youngstown's east side, grand opening in April. Before you put that car in the race, make an appointment at the Predator Zone.
And we're back on Valley Gold with Debórah and my very special guest, Derrick McDowell. What a powerful affirmation to everything that had gone on in your life prior, and culminating to the moment where when you finally were able to birth your vision, you couldn't even get into it because
here's what it looks like to be unapologetically and like the most authentically yourself, and it pay off.
Wow.
Right?
Does it get any better than that?
It don't get no. I sat there for a minute, like, y'all go ahead.
Yeah, take it in.
Y'all do y'all thing, But it was such, in the same way that traffic paralleled to getting into the flea that day, my life paralleled to this city. The vehicle that I had to take to get where I was going in my own personal life, it didn't seem like I was going to get where I was going. I was blocked. But there came a time where I reached this point where I'd recognized that I had done so many things in my life to prove so many people wrong that I had to switch to, when are you going to prove yourself right? It was just this epiphany in my mid-30s that I'm just now getting to know myself. And then I started asking myself about myself. Literally, I'm having a conversation in my head. And I said, you've been the underdog, you've been counted out, you've been, abused, you've gone through these traumas, right? And I'm not kidding you. This whole conversation in my head, it transitioned to, so has Youngstown. It was like finding, literally, a twin you never knew you had.
You're mirroring your city.
Like, yo, me and you can relate. And that's the moment, like, this deep love just deposited for this. It wasn't just a city anymore. It was like,
you.
This was me. And I also made this commitment. And I just said it. I said, Youngstown will never take my life. And so I'm sitting here now in my mid-30s saying Youngstown will never take my life. How do you make that guarantee? And I'm like, I actually have an answer that's not fake, an answer that will never change. And the answer was, the only way that Youngstown will never take your life is if you give it.
Wow.
And so you'll never take my life because I freely give it.
That had to bring such a level of peace.
Oh, my Lord. Freedom, a peace.
And now you can be the brilliant person that you are. You don't have to hide. You don't have to hide your intelligence.
No.
You don't have to dummy down.
Nope.
Wow,
we can look at my high school transcripts. My wife, who's an academic and a teacher and going after her master's, and she goes, oh my gosh, how did you even graduate? I'm smarter than that. I knew what I was doing.
That shit was on paper, right?
I knew what I was doing.
Let our viewers know where to reach you and what's next on the horizon.
Well, the work that I do for the Flea, you can reach me through that, theyoungstownflea.com. I put my direct cell phone number out there, whether it be on my Facebook page or the Flea page. I work with the amphitheater downtown. And so any of those facets, you can reach me easily.
To say this has been a treat is an understatement. This has been a really enriching moment with Derrick Mcdowell. And I know that we're going to see and hear more great things from him because he's a man that is committed. So I hope you've enjoyed this segment of Valley Gold Show with Debórah. And until next time, that's it for now. Bye-bye.